Hi, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to the author journey. I'm Anne O'Connell and I'm so excited to be back. 2024 is promising to be quite an exciting year, and we've got a stellar lineup for the author journey for you. And today's author, I can't tell you how excited I am about bringing a fellow crime fiction writer on. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek because I truly aspire to be as incredible as she is. We have Pamela Callow, who is the best-selling author of the Kate Lange Thriller series. It's been one of my favorites for a long while, and I've been looking forward to doing this interview for a while. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Pam before I bring her up. She was born in Ontario, Canada, the youngest child of two immigrants. Her mother immigrated from East Germany after World War II, and her British father was hired to work as an engineer on the ill-fated Avro Arrow project. At the age of 2, her family moved to Halifax. I moved to Halifax when I was 3, so there's another thing we have in common. She says growing up by the ocean has shaped her life and shaped her writing. She attended the University of King's College for the foundation year program and then graduated with an undergraduate degree in English literature. Following that, she studied law and was admitted to the Nova Scotia Bar. She has always had an interest in public policy, so returned to university to complete a master's degree in public administration. I'm going to show you her covers while I'm telling you about her. Her subsequent work as a strategy consultant for an international consulting firm took her all over North America. After having her children, she says she exhumed an old passion and a long-held dream to become an author. Her first novel made it to the acquisitions desk of a major New York publishing house and was rejected. At the time, she'd already written her second novel and was working on a third. Lots happened after that, so I will let her tell us the rest of the story. And so let's welcome Pam Callow to the author journey. Hi, Pam.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you
Welcome,
so
welcome.
much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And thank
Absolutely,
you
my
for the
pleasure.
lovely intro. I
Well,
appreciate it.
there was so much more, but I just thought, rather than reading an intro, we would just let you tell the story because there's a lot to tell.
Yeah, it's been a long and winding road.
Isn't that amazing?
So,
And we're both here in
yeah.
Halifax, which is exciting. So hopefully one day our paths will cross like in person. So I also want to
Oh,
welcome anybody who's watching and say, please, please feel free to throw your comments or questions in the comments, and we'll get to them as we go, as we're chatting with Pam. And we already have book lovers Mark and Lana have joined us. Hello, ladies, they say.
hi.
And Deanna Foster. Hello, Pam. Lovely to see you. So that's
Hi,
great.
Deanna. It's great to see you.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. So I want to know, like, what happened after that rejection? Obviously, a lot happened. So,
Yeah. Well, the rejection was for a novel that I still might exhume as well. It's a time travel historical, very different from my Kate Lange series,
wow.
and but has a lawyer in it, of course.
Yeah.
And that book actually, I just loved writing. It was really fun, and I love historical fiction, so that was kind of I mean, my English literature degree was in 19th century English literature, so I was
Oh,
pretty
wow.
well versed in the period when I wrote the book. So what happened to that was that it won some contests. I had an editor wanting to read it. I got an agent based on that, and then it, like as you said, it went to an acquisitions house, and as you would know, the process is, an editor puts forth the book, and it's considered at the acquisitions level, and they make a decision whether or not to buy it. And according to my agent, it was rather unusual to get rejected at that stage, but I
Oh,
did,
no. Oh,
which is
that's
fine because
a
it led
unique
to.
experience you'd rather not have.
Well, you know what? It is what it is, and
Right.
I don't. It's actually, it would have led me on a very different course and trajectory with my writing
Sure.
career. So I, I had already damaged at that point. So what happened is I started writing the sequel to that time travel historical, but decided not to invest more time in it because historical fiction takes a huge amount of research, and I
Oh,
really love authentic world building. I'm
yeah.
pretty particular about accuracy, and so it takes a lot of time. And I
Mhm.
also was a huge mystery thriller reader, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to switch into the contemporary world because it, I live in it, and I can, I'm very interested
Draw
in the
from
genre.
that.
So I
Yeah.
had been writing, I think I had written Damaged or was writing Damaged when it was rejected. And in between that, I actually had a middle grade fiction mystery novel I was working on. And so basically what happened um, with Damaged is the agent that I had at the time wasn't really a thriller genre agent. And so,
Mm,
for anybody, any authors, aspiring writers out there, you really need to work with the team that knows your
your
genre,
genre.
knows the market, knows
Hmm.
how to position you and your work.
Hmm.
And, in fairness to this agent, that's not what she signed me up for. And she was
Right.
very game to try to take it on, but she didn't really have, I think, that part of the marketplace wasn't really within her scope. So
Right.
basically, I ended up pitching my book at a conference, and I pitched it to the editor who bought it. And at the same
Wow.
time, I pitched my middle grade to a different editor who also wanted to read that book, but didn't have
Wow.
that book finished. So it was kind of first,
Cart before the
first
horse.
across
And
the
what was
post,
that? Yeah. What was that conference? So, I mean, these are really important tidbits for, authors who are
Oh, and this
watching.
conference is still, I'm pretty sure, going on. It was the Surrey International Writers Conference. So the reason
Okay.
why I decided to go to it is because I had books in multiple genres that I had written, and I thought,
You're not ambitious at all, are you?
no. So I was kind of like, well, I should go out there. And then so yeah, I mean, there are a few nuggets to learn from this, I suppose. I worked in management consulting before I became an author.
Right.
And I did work all over North America. I wasn't intimidated by selling into New York or reaching out to people. To me, it's just 6 degrees of separation.
Right.
So,
And
I
you had
knew
your
that,
family, so
yeah, and I mean, I just
reinvented yourself
well,
as you do.
I just, yeah, well, I guess there's that, but I just kind of, I just thought I knew the genre that I was writing in, which is the mystery crime thriller genre. At that time, there wasn't really the same kind of marketplace in Canada for it. New York
Mhm.
was the hub for getting your
Yeah.
books published.
Yeah.
So that was really my focus. And so I had this agent who I had already signed up with, but she was it wasn't kind of going the way that I wanted it to go in terms
Mhm.
of that book submission. And so I decided to go to a conference where I could pitch. And so because I again, my previous career, I'm quite used to pitching things. I did a
Right.
lot of it in my job. And
Yeah.
I just thought the thing that I do believe really strongly is you are most successful when you believe strongly and passionately about what you're trying to convince somebody to read or
Oh,
buy. Right?
man.
You can say that to a publisher, right?
Yeah.
Exactly that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting being an author or a publisher or editor. There's the creator side where you
Mhm.
have to just take everything off and just listen
Eliminate.
to this. I
Yes.
use this too,
Mm.
though, because I write thrillers and
Right.
there's a puzzle in it, and I do a
Mhm.
lot of research. But the characters are here. That's where they come from, and you
Yeah.
have to just kind of let it out. And it's a very
Right.
vulnerable place to be as a person.
Mhm.
Um, but on the business side, if that's where agents are supposed to be doing that work for you, or if you're
Right.
unagented. But if if you are confident and comfortable with those skills, you can also do it. And you are your best advocate.
Advocate.
You're the best representative of your work because you
Absolutely.
hopefully believe in it. If you don't believe in it,
Then you shouldn't be
then
doing it.
or you
Right?
should be doing something else if
Else,
that's not the
yes,
one you don't believe in, right?
yes.
Like, it's sort of, if you don't love it, who will? Like, I mean,
Exactly.
it's like,
And
I
there's
mean,
so much to unpack here, Pam, because, again, we've got so many similar parallels. So you went from being an agented traditional author to not very long ago taking your books back
yeah,
and republishing them yourself. So you now also have a publishing company. So again, similar trajectory, and again, I aspire to follow your footsteps.
I
So
hope
talk
you
a little
do,
bit.
or
Oh, that'd
do
be
your
so
own thing.
amazing. Yeah, but talk a little bit about why you decided to do that, because I think that's pretty
Well,
fascinating.
there were, well, thank you. There were a lot of forces in play at that time. So when I sold Damage, to this public, so I mean, and I'll very quickly backtrack to this
Oh,
comment from
please.
Miss Surrey,
Yeah.
because I encourage anybody to go to, especially if you're not living in the hub of publishing,
Yeah.
go where it is.
Yeah.
Go meet people, go talk to them,
Yeah.
go listen. Even if you don't talk to people, listen and learn. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much you can do there. And it does help, I think, eliminate that fear of unknown for people.
Absolutely.
So,
And just FYI, Bruce, hi Bruce, Bruce Bishop is watching.
hey, Bruce,
He
it's great.
included the link to the Surrey International Writers Conference
Oh,
in the
that's
comments.
great.
So
Yeah.
thank you, Bruce.
It was
And I
like
want to,
a long time ago. I'm going to tell you that, like a long, long time ago, I went to it, by the way. Just,
okay. And also give a shout out to Francine Cosman, who's one of my authors who's watching. Hi, Francine. Thanks for joining
hi,
us.
Francine.
Okay.
Um,
So rewind back to
so I
Surrey.
will tell you where there is an element of um, putting yourself out there. And occasionally my life serendipity has rewarded me for that.
Yeah. Sometimes
So
that's
I,
uncomfortable for authors, because, we're used to being in this little room
well,
alone
it
with all our
is. And,
characters.
quite frankly, like, I had a young family. This wasn't an easy thing for me to do. I think I flew out on points to Surrey. Like, it's not like, I mean, I hadn't sold my books yet.
Right.
I hadn't had any success at that point. And I just was like, I have this stuff. I believe in what I've done.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting to a certain point. I'm going to go out to Surrey. I
Yeah.
just had
Very
this strong
courageous.
instinct. I just had this instinct about it, and I
Excellent.
listened to it, and I was able to do it. And but I also reached out to an editor who
Okay.
I knew was going to be there, whom I had met through a writing organization.
Excellent.
And that editor said, actually, I'm not going to be there, but my
Oh,
colleague is going to be there, and I want you to look. Why don't you pitch your material to her? But
awesome.
Surrey had a rule that you could only pitch to one editor, and I had already booked an editor for my other book. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to hope to randomly run into her in this large conference. So the very first morning, I show up and I sit down at one of these tables of 8 in the ballroom. And if you've ever
Mhm.
sat at a table of 8 in a ballroom, they're quite large.
Yeah.
And, we're all sitting there, and everybody had these long lanyards, and everyone's name tags were beneath the table. Like, nobody could see anyone's names. And, we had this group
You have to
breakfast,
put a
and
knot
everyone,
in them.
yeah, I know. Well, I didn't at the time. I was actually,
Yeah.
to be honest, I was actually kind of sick. I had picked
Oh,
up a terrible cold, so I wasn't feeling
oh,
well. I was horribly jet lagged. I was
oh.
up at like 3 in the morning, and anyway, I show up there, and I'm kind of like, okay, and have my coffee, and I'm sitting there trying to get the lay of the land, and also trying to keep my eye out for the senator. And so, literally, what happens is uh, she was sitting at my table. This was like, but across from me. So we weren't introduced because the table was too big and it was too noisy. But they introduced all the editors, and she stood up, and my jaw almost dropped to the table. I was like, oh my God, where's
Wow.
the editor I'm looking for?
Serendipity.
Right in front of me. But then you do not want to be the author that's stalking the editor into the bathroom.
Right.
So, it was kind of like, how do I do this discreetly? Whatever. So anyway, I did reach out to her. She was lovely and gracious, invited me for a drink. Well, I don't really drink, but I was fine,
Yeah, I
but
see, right?
I had to pitch my book, and I'm a lightweight, so it's one of the reasons. Like, one drink and it's not a,
Loopy.
I'm an inexpensive person to take out for a drink.
I
Um,
love it.
so I'm
Have to
literally
mental note.
showcasing on my book, and I'm literally giving a chapter by chapter description of Damaged, which is quite an intricate and complicated plot. And I hadn't actually read I'd finished the book a while ago over drinks. I think it took me an hour, and I pitched it to her. She loved it, and within a month, I had sold the book, and I'd
You're
sold
in a
two books.
week?
Oh yeah, I mean, she asked for it, and then then we were just into negotiations, and I think the conference was at the end of October, and I had the contract by the beginning of December, and I sold the second book. So here's the other thing: always be prepared. So I had the outline
Yes,
for the second book done. So
second book.
I was able to write the synopsis and sell it as a 2-book contract to the publisher because I
Wow.
already had figured it out. And when I finished Indefensible, I knew that I would have to come up with the next books for the next contract. So, which I think I did. I was actually quite sick at the time again. I had young kids. I mean, you're just getting
You're
sick all the
right.
time.
Oh,
And
you
I actually,
sharing germs, right? And who was the
yeah.
publisher? Who was the
So
publisher
it was
that?
Mira Books. So Mira
Mhm.
Books is now owned by HarperCollins, and my
Okay.
editor was Valerie Gray, who was wonderful. She was just a fabulous editor,
An
and
editor is like your spouse. Like you really need to have a relationship that is,
yeah.
you know, it,
Well, she was very respectful of my voice,
mhm.
and she did it was really a very light edit. Like, there wasn't a lot of line editing because I'm a very clean writer in terms of my voice.
Yeah.
Um, but so it was just sort of more around the developmental edit,
Yeah.
not sure that's so clear. Can you add something here,
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
reader's perspective, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then with Indefensible, the interesting thing about writing Indefensible was that it was actually submitted and in um, being typeset before Damaged came out. So I had no idea how readers were going to respond to any of the dynamics from the first book. And
Right.
Indefensible takes place about 6 weeks after Damage ends and picks up with all of those
Right.
characters plus new characters.
Right.
So you're kind of hoping that you hit the right notes in the first book because the second book's already coming out and you don't know how it's going to be
Okay.
perceived.
And
So
so how did it come out? How was it perceived?
Well, so Damaged, this is where I'm very grateful to Valerie, my editor. She was an executive editor in the publishing house, and she advocated very strongly for me at the acquisitions level, and also after the book was bought for with the buyers.
Okay.
So and I can't remember, there was something. So I don't know a lot about it. You probably know more
Mhm.
about it than I do as a publisher, but
Mhm.
they. I didn't even know this until it happened that they had sort of put my debut novel out as like one of the books for that year within the house, like that they were giving it that
Wow.
kind of support, and
Wow.
so it ended up being selected by Levy Home Entertainment, which is one of the major North American distributors, as their need to read pick for the month of June, which is the
Oh
month
my
my book came
God.
out.
And what
I
year
know.
was that again?
That
What
was
year
in
was that?
2010, and so I didn't even know any of this. So my
That's
editor
incredible.
called me on St. Patrick's Day, actually, to announce the news and that I had this huge print run because of it, because it was going into Target.
Right?
And what the result of that pick was, that because it was with this big distributor, is it ended up being put in the top 10 bestseller display rack all across North America. Like every airport,
Wow.
every drugstore, every grocery store that had them, Damaged was one of the books.
Wow.
And it
And
had
so
like a little sticker on it for Levy. So,
that's incredible. And for a
yeah.
first-time author, that is inconceivable,
Well,
right?
I just didn't
So
even know. Like, I was sort of like, what?
And
I
how
was sort
was
of
it?
stunned.
Was it your agent that like put it under the nose or eyeballs of the people at Levy? Like how?
No, it was my editor.
Oh, your editor.
So
Okay.
my editor, Valerie, was a very big advocate for my work. She
Okay.
was really excited about the book. Um, like I said, I'm very grateful to her. She was great, and I mean, it does really reinforce how important it is who you partner with on these types of
Yes.
things,
Yes.
and who believes in your work. It again
Yeah.
comes back to sell something, to convince somebody of something,
Right.
you have to have that passion and
You have to
belief in
believe
what
in
it
it.
is.
Yes. And
Yeah,
but you know
and
what? You also have to come through. So you can't be talking about how amazing and wonderful
exactly.
and okay, the next John Grisham. Your books have been compared to John Grisham, which is really quite exciting. So it had you know, you set an expectation and you want readers to say, "Oh my gosh, like I they did not mislead me." This is really, you know what I mean?
Well, it's very, I mean, the thing is there were what did I say? I think you hit on a really important thing, which is part of my ethos, is it's always in the work. Like,
Yeah,
you can't,
can't rest on your
um,
laurels.
project something, you can't tell people something, you have to back it up.
Yeah,
And
you gotta
so,
follow through. Yeah,
yeah, so when you do try to convince somebody about something, you know, and they don't know who you are, the only
right.
way they can judge it is by the
By
work.
reading it.
And
Yes.
yeah, and I mean, it's sort of,
Amen.
it's so true. I mean,
Yeah,
and I think, and that's, I think in a way it proves it to yourself if you're
yeah,
happy with the work. So
yeah.
then you have the confidence to go out
Yes,
and actually sell the work, you know,
yes,
whether you're selling it to an agent or selling it
yeah,
directly from your website to
yeah,
readers. It's because it's not even like the selling message, but it's there's an energy and a belief in writing that comes through when you feel
mhm,
that. And or at
mhm,
least it does for me, and I think any writer out there would agree with me. And
yeah.
so and readers pick that up.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
feel it right away. And
Yeah,
so you know, sorry,
and when
I
you have
am now dodging the light here just a
I
second.
see.
I can move over a little bit.
Reposition, yeah. And
Yeah.
when you have sort of a, you know, third party endorsement,
Mhm.
unbiased, unconnected, you know, beyond the blurbs from, you know, fellow crime writing authors or industry experts or something that goes beyond that, then that's also reassuring as a writer because, you know, having those little, you know, little pushes from behind when you know you start to doubt yourself. And you know, I know for myself when I won an Ippy award for my first novel, um, that
That's
all,
a
you know,
huge
I thought to
accomplishment,
yeah,
Aunt.
thank you. I thought maybe I can actually do this, right? So, you know, I still have doubts, but you know, you just keep on writing and I
Well,
go ahead.
we all have doubts.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
many doubts.
yeah. I'm
I'm not
yeah, I'm waiting for the
I'm kind of
person to compare me to Sue Grafton, but, you know, we'll I'm just putting
actually
that out there.
I could see that actually, to be honest, in the type of writing that you have. I
Bless
definitely
you.
could see it. And
Oh,
you
thank
know,
you.
it's sort of I mean, it's interesting with author endorsements because I have this one like I feel really grateful, first of all, to the authors who gave me endorsements, who took the time to read my books and felt
Mm,
comfortable endorsing my work.
bless you
And
all.
yeah, and it's true. The one that I have on the cover of Damage is from James Rollins, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of his books.
Mm,
And he, I met him at a conference, and I basically, he asked me to pitch my book to him in one sentence, and that made him decide whether or not he was going to read it.
do you remember the sentence you used?
Oh yeah, because I use it all the time.
Oh, please tell me, tell me, tell me.
So, um, okay, now you put me on the spot. A struggling lawyer uncovers a conspiracy that rocks the foundations of biomedical research and puts her in the hands of a serial killer. And
Oh, I
that
just got
is so
shivers.
yeah,
And I've read it.
that is a 400-page book, 105,000 words in one sentence. You have to be able to do that.
Yes.
Just for me personally, maybe other writers don't, but for me personally, I
No,
actually do write my one line,
you have
high
to.
concept,
Your elevator pitch,
often at the
whatever.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had it ready, and
Yeah.
he is James Rollins is a vet. He's very interested in biomedicine. When
Wow.
he found out my book had that element in it, he said, "Yeah, I'll read it, but I'm not gonna." He said, "I won't. I'm not gonna give you a quote unless I like it."
Oh,
And
that's so, but
so
you know
I
what?
mean,
As he
I sent it
shouldn't.
off to him. I was terrified. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, but not everyone does that.
Right.
So
Right.
I was terrified. And then he sent, and it went through my editor. The connection. Like I, I did the pitch, but she sent it off the galleys and everything, and he read it,
Right.
and then I remember her calling me, and she was so excited that he had
Oh,
given
that's
me. I mean, it was a
amazing.
beaut, and this is amazing quote. I mean, and it's sort of
Fabulous.
those things they help you a lot,
Yeah.
because they help you in so many ways. So
Yeah.
I feel like um, that's another side of the industry that people, there's many ways that writers can help other writers,
Oh,
and
so true. Oh my goodness.
and so I sort of have that always in my mind.
Absolutely. And it's mutually beneficial as well. Oh my God, we could go on. We have a few
Yeah.
more folks watching. Kim Meachin, thank you, Kim, for joining
Hi,
us.
Kim.
Yay. And Sue at Dartmouth Book Exchange, Deanna
Hey, Sue.
Foster. Yay. Um, and I mean, I have so many questions and so many exciting things. I also just want to touch briefly on your other role, sort of that as an emerging writer director and script consultant. So, turning, these books into, like,
Yeah.
converting into a script for either the small or the big screen. How has that been? How's that experience been?
Well, that's like a 10 years in one question,
I
basically.
know, right?
Seriously, though, it's true.
That's a whole other interview.
Well, it's a very interesting process. My books were first optioned in 2013. And I've had, like, it's interesting with the series because it's sort of like this. Um, what I'm very proud about Kate Lange is that I set it in Halifax, and it's been able to have this kind of international exposure.
So cool.
So, I put Halifax in the first sentence of my book because I wanted just to say, I just wanted to own it and make it
Hmm.
a character and say, this is where it
Yeah.
is. So in the
Yeah.
film and TV world, what's interesting about that is it works for it in the sense that it's an unusual setting.
Hmm.
But then there's also the other side of, um, where do you sell it? How do you set up the deal? Will you
Yeah.
actually have it in Halifax? All of those aspects of it, which are not necessarily in my control at all. So the first time the series was under option, it was with a producer who optioned my rights, so I had no say in it, in exchange for being paid for that.
Yeah.
And they hired another writer, and they developed the treatment for it and tried to sell it. Um, and they had kind of a different approach to the series, and in the end, they didn't sell it.
Mm.
So then I got my rights back and decided that based on that experience, I wanted to be more creatively involved so I could kind of ensure that there were certain aspects of the
That
series
were
that, yeah,
protected.
well,
Yes.
just sort of
Your
certain,
vision.
yeah. And I mean, the thing
Hmm.
is, you do like the series world, I think, is and the character arcs, some of the dynamics and conflicts are really powerful. So it's like you want to protect those, but you don't have to have everything the same as in the book.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this
Right.
is for TV, or film, it's a different medium.
Yeah.
So you
You're
have to
killing
kind of
more of your
think,
darlings.
yeah, or you're just sort of, one thing when you write a novel is that you only have a certain amount of room
Hmm.
for the characters. And so
Hmm.
I pare things down. I have characters that I really love
Mm.
that I haven't been able to give a lot of, pages to because
Hmm.
of the structure of a novel to keep that
Moving the story
thriller
along.
pace
Yeah.
going. But
Yeah.
what you spend in description to try to get a reader into a scene, you can really effectively achieve with a shot. So it
You're right.
changes the room that you have and the space that you have and how you
Right.
tell the story and tell the story, because there's that visual aspect of telling a story is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's just a very different lens on the story world. And so the second time round, I optioned to another pair of producers. So at the time, I had two pairs of producers, one who wanted to do film and one who wanted to do TV, which was a really kind of like,
Oh
is this
dear.
really happening situation?
Wow.
All in the same couple of weeks, where I had to kind of make a decision about which direction to go to. I went TV because of that whole idea that there was a lot to develop. And
Series,
then
yeah.
COVID hit. And that had quite a big impact on the industry in Hollywood. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it
Huge.
really did kind of throw spanners in what we were trying to
Yeah.
do. And
And then a
eventually,
writer's strike and just so
yeah.
much going on. Mm.
So I actually ended up, the producing pair I was working with, they parted ways because they wanted to work on different things. So we amicably moved on from that agreement. And I was just kind of like, well, you know what? I'm just going to write another book. That's what I should be focusing on.
Yeah.
And when I was approached by another producer, and so I'm working with her right now.
Awesome.
And how my own experience comes into it is during the pandemic, I ended up getting an opportunity through Netflix to work in a writing room, where I was brought in to help these writers on the mystery aspect of adapting this sci-fi, actually really iconic science
Oh
fiction author
wow.
that had a mystery element in his series.
Wow.
So we broke out the first season, and I was doing this through Screen Nova Scotia, and I'm going to give them a huge shout out because they've been really supportive of screenwriters in Nova Scotia and of my
Awesome.
career. They gave me an opportunity to do with a cohort of screenwriters from Nova Scotia to do this 3 series modules with the former head of BBC Drama, John York, on writing a
Wow.
hit TV series. And so this was like an international program. There were film execs from all over the world, and it was very hands-on, and we did a lot of
Oof.
analysis, script analysis, TV analysis. And through that, I actually started working with another film company in Belgium who hired me to work as a script consultant on their thriller
Oh,
pilot. And then
that's
another
incredible.
another producer director here was working on a project, and she actually asked me to work as a consultant on her script just to give it a final pass. So I've done a bit of that work.
That's
It's not
amazing.
something that I really like promote. It's
Right,
just sort
right.
of because it's just for the basic reason that I'm also writing books.
You're trying
There's
to
just a
write a
lot
book,
going
but
on. But
that's what
now
you
that I'm
get for being so efficient and available and once you're in that
I
room, when you're in that writer's room, you're presenting who you are and what you can do, and then it's like, wow, like let's recommend Pam. She can do this.
Well, it's been, honestly, I wouldn't say there's been a huge it's a bit of a challenge here.
Yeah.
In Nova Scotia, we don't have hardly any, if any, writing rooms. A lot of the writing rooms are
Right.
done in LA or Toronto, and
Yeah.
on the business end of things, film tax credits are attached to who they hire.
Right.
So you're a lot more expensive to bring you in to
Yeah.
outside of their jurisdiction. So there's just a
Yeah.
lot of business elements in it. Right now, I'm
Mhm.
working on my own show,
Mhm.
developing that and getting that ready to package. So,
That's
and
fantastic.
that's just been something that really picked up in the last 3 weeks. So it just
Wow.
kind
Oh,
of went
that's
from, yeah, but we'll see.
incredible.
I've been down this road 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've had
Well,
a lot of interesting opportunities from it. I think at some point it's going, to be honest, the more you do it, the more you learn, the more
Yep,
prepared, the more you can see, and you know,
for
you
sure.
hit a point where you can really see how it can come together, and so
Right.
that's sort of
100%.
where we
And in
are.
your spare time, no. Well, oh my goodness, you know what? I would love to have you back and delve a little bit more deeply. But, when your next book comes out, we'll have you back. But, amazingly, we're already at our time. And I also want to mention that Sue Slade at Dartmouth Book Exchange says we have a long wait list for all of Pam's books. How exciting is that?
Sorry, Sue. I meant to get
I
back to you
love
about
that.
that.
Yeah. Well, and I actually, when I read your first 3 books, I was living away. So it was really great to sort of, bring me back home, so to speak. But they were in my sister's bookshelf. And she said, "You must read this author." She said, "You will love it." So I did, and I do. And I was
Thank you.
excited when, Bruce brought you into the winter weekend workshop, and we were able to sort of chat through
Yes.
that. And now you're here on the author journey. And I so appreciate you taking the time to join us and to join me. And I hope that we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, no, it was really great. And I'm so happy we connected. Thank you, Bruce, for
Yay,
doing
thank
that
you, Bruce.
because it was so lovely. And it's such a pleasure. It's exciting, actually, to be honest. I'm really impressed with what you do. I think you really
Thank
bring
you.
together a community of writers, and it's so important. And to offer that opportunity through OC Publishing for authors as well is huge.
Thank you.
Because when I first sold my series, there weren't those kinds of opportunities, and it was actually just before Amazon really cracked things open. And
Mhm.
I just remember, like, my cohort of publishing in the thriller writing community, I mean, just to get that second contract was huge
Oh
because
my goodness.
it
Yeah.
it was the model, the industry was already changing. They weren't
Mhm.
supporting new and mid-list authors as much, and so the fact that more authors can have that kind of support, because I think it's very hard to start out and go indie.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's tough. I mean, I had some
Wow.
experience behind me before I did that, so
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. And sometimes I feel like a bit of a platypus because, there aren't, we're kind of a one of a kind. There are others that are doing publishing services
well,
and
that's
so
more like
on.
a
But
unicorn,
oh, thank you.
I would
Oh,
say, yeah.
thank you, Pam. Well, on that note, we'll sign off, and we'll definitely have you back. And thank
Oh,
you
thank you.
again for joining us. And thank you all for watching our first episode of the author journey in 2024 with Pamela Callow, the author of the Kate Lange Thriller series, and one of my favorite authors. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you'll join us again on the author journey. And for now, I'll say goodbye and happy reading and writing.